Your point there, Kev, I was picked up a guy yesterday.
Councillor Jordan,
people that don't realise that some of these electric batteries are only rented inside the cars, and after 2 years they want the money, or you pay the money for the batteries. You've got lots of small.
I didn't know that. It's very competitive in work. I noticed we got plug-in and people are coming into work early to make sure they get a make sure they're plugged in. We have to think about mitigating that. Unlucky whoever muted.
Councillor Whitehead, the meeting is open.
Oh, sorry.
Right. I think we need to be mindful. We do need to be mindful that when we're in the council chamber, there could be the public here. So when we're talking prior to the meeting, we need to be careful because there could be the public here.
That's a fair point.
Okay.
Luckily, nothing controversial was said.
Right. Thanks a lot. So I declare the meeting of the City Council open. Can I advise any members that are joining via Teams that they might be experiencing technical issues to leave the meeting and rejoin when you are able? We certainly had that yesterday at the seminar. This hybrid meeting is being conducted on a multi-locational basis in accordance with the Local Government and Election Wales Act and the arrangements for multi-location meetings agreed by the Council, which will operate alongside the Council's standing orders to ensure that we will continue to take democratic decisions in an open and transparent manner. For those, please note that today's meeting is being filmed for live and subsequent broadcast by ways of the Council internet site. The images and sound recording may also be used for training purposes within the Council. As you will see from the agenda papers, generally the public seating areas are not filmed. However, by entering the meeting room and using the public seating area, you are consenting to being filmed and to the possible use of those images and sound recordings for webcasting and or training purposes. As well as being broadcast live, a recording version will be available on the Council website about 24 hours after the meeting. For those members present in the Council chamber, please use their microphones to contribute to the meeting, and please remember not to get too close to the microphone, and also switch your microphones off when they have finished, for those attending meeting remotely. Can I request that you all switch off your cameras and mute your microphones when you are not speaking to ensure that there's no unnecessary background noise and with the help of the audio and visual quality of the broadcast. The Council standing orders and the Code of Conduct will apply at all times during this hybrid meeting in the same way as ordinary meetings, and members should conduct themselves accordingly. For the benefit of everyone watching on the live stream, when I invite members to cast their votes remotely on any particular item, they will do so electronically using the voting facility in the chat function. The votes will be automatically counted and are recorded on the system, but individual votes that are not identified on the screen and the chat room poll is not available on the live screen for public viewing. However, I will announce the number of votes cast for or against or any abstentions before I declare the result. Those members present in the Council chamber will vote in the usual way by a show of hands. Welsh translation of the proceedings can be provided upon request. Before the meeting is open, the Council will formally observe a 2-minute silence for the late Queen Elizabeth II. Okay, thank you, everyone. Next item is apologies. I have received apologies for absence from the following councillors: Beverley Perkins, William Routley, Martin Kellaway, the Mayor, and James Peterson. Are there any other apologies? Right, we move on then. Sorry? Councillor Horton? Corton, sorry.
Just to say, Malcolm Linton sent his apologies to me as well.
Okay, thank you very much. All the way from Liverpool there. Right, you've got that one. Right, are there any declarations of interest at this stage? Councillor Corton's hand is still up. So I'll move on.
Sorry, I can't lower it for some reason. Sorry.
Right, okay. If any declaration of interest arises during the course of the meeting, then members should draw it to my attention by using the raised hand facility or by posting a message in the chat box. My announcements. In less than 2 weeks, we will welcome the return of the Newport Food Festival on Saturday, the 8th of October. Our city centre streets will be once again become a hive of activity and tasty treats. There will be plenty of food stalls as traders showcase the best food and drink from across the city and the wider region. The newly refurbished Newport Market will also play host to local chefs putting on special demonstrations throughout the day. Plus, there will be a full programme of activities for all the family. All members are invited to attend to show their support for the event. I hope to see you there. Also, at this point, I'd like to remind members that the Remembrance Sunday is soon upon us, and it would be nice if a lot of members could attend that as well, please. Next item 2. The minutes from July the 19th, 2022 are before us. Are there any points of accuracy? Then I move the minutes as a true recorder. Is there a seconder? Thank you. Would all those in favour please indicate? Thank you. The approval of the minutes is duly carried. Appointments, item 3. Councillor Clark will introduce this item.
Sorry. Thank you, Presiding Officer. Really very short. Can I just add one more appointment to the list which has been provided, and that would be Councillor Jenkins replacing Councillor Adan at the Peel Millennium Centre. Thank you, Presiding Officer.
Right. Would all councillors attending remotely please cast their vote now by clicking on the appropriate box in the chat functions, and for those in the chamber, all those in favour, please show. Any against or abstentions?
Excuse me, Presiding Officer, I'm not getting an option to vote.
Yeah, it normally does take a while to come through. Yeah, it's come through now. Is that still the same, Councillor Whitehead? Oh, you've voted.
Yeah, it looks like I've got one, but you've just asked for 2 votes, didn't you?
Sorry, Councillor, you wanted to second the motion, was it?
Yes, it's pretty sure I do, thank you.
Yeah, sorry about that. I should have come to you first. Okay, is that okay? You've got them all down then? Thank you. Right. Item 4 then is police issues. Please welcome. Is it Chief? I'm not sure. What.
Chief Inspector John Davis from Grand Police and the Neighbourhood and Partnerships, Chief Inspector for Newport and Monmouthshire.
Yeah, sorry about that. I had 2 different names and I didn't think you were those. Sorry. Okay, so can you carry on then, please?
Yeah, I've got a approximately 5 items I'd like to just give you some quick updates on, and I'm then happy to take questions. So first one is around violent crime. We've seen an increase in violent crime across two main areas within the city centre and the eastern side of the river. Sorry, can you not? Is that better? My apologies. So there's been an increase in violent crime across the city centre and the eastern side of Newport. We've already responded to this with an Operation Clinton, which is specifically around tackling violent crime. It's a multi-agency operation that is running around diverting some young people from some of those issues, and also around some arrests and some investigations. Obviously, most of that I can't go into in too much detail, but just so that you're aware it is happening. An awful lot of this sort of lower level violence is linked to small scale drug supply. It's being dealt with robustly. Only last week we recovered a significant quantity of Class A drugs from an address in Somerton Road, which is all linked to this particular issue. Chair, I don't know whether you want me to take questions on each of these issues individually or after I've gone through all of them.
Yeah. I'll take questions at the end.
Okay, that's fine. Second issue is around the car cruising, which has been seen around the eastern side of the city. This has reduced considerably over recent months, albeit there are still some smaller scale issues around that occurring. We are fully aware of them. We're looking at design out crime issues and whether or not we can actually target harden those locations to make sure that we can actually prevent it from happening. But we're also very much aware of the issues around the Queen's Way. The long, straight, unfortunate racetrack which is turned into. We're working with Go Safe Wales, who are responsible for speed enforcement, and also our roads policing unit around tackling that particular issue, and be able to give an update at next meeting, and certainly to those of you with local interest. Specifically, more than happy to make sure you get those updates at your regular meetings with your inspectors. Pill, there's been some tremendous partnership work gone on. There have been some isolated incidents in Pill, but largely speaking, Pill is a very different place to what it was a number of years ago. The Pill Carnival was a great source of, a great success from a policing perspective. There were no issues, which is the first year that's happened, reported by or to the police. So no issues of disorder or crime. It was quite pleasant to only be dealing with lost children during that day, all of which were reunited with families, as opposed to what has happened in the past. So that's a positive indicator as far as I'm concerned as to where that's going. Operation Wyvern, which is around the sexual exploitation of adults, is going to continue between now and Christmas. So we're still targeting the antisocial behaviour that is associated with some of the on-street work that goes on within Pill. Still very much targeting the people who actually attend Pill for that purpose, but also supporting some of the people who are exploited down there as well, which is equally important. As far as Newport West in general goes, we have some planned operations around some refocusing on areas of Maesglas, Dyffryn and the Gare. So some antisocial behaviours, they're very difficult areas that not to have interlinked. A lot of what goes on in these areas is very linked to specific groups of people. So there's work planned around that between now and Christmas, which you will hear about in the press. The city centre, again, won't labour the increase in the antisocial behaviour. It's linked to the violent crime. Homelessness and begging continues to be an issue within the city centre, and I know that I've recently had communication around some of the drift towards some of the homeless and people who are begging on the city centre moving towards criminality. That's being targeted and dealt with, and obviously we're working with our partners within the local authority around the cleanliness issues that are associated with that as well. So that is very much on our radar. There's been some changes now, obviously post-COVID and back with some of the things I see around making sure that the nighttime economy remains profitable within Newport is around the changing that we're putting in policing around the nighttime economy. We've changed the way that we resource it so that we can make sure that there's proper support for the pub watch and for the business owners in the nighttime economy as well. They've supported us very much with changes in licensing hours, which is very grateful, and we will obviously continue our support with the changes that we're putting in place there. The final sort of point really, which is sort of coming up now, we're entering on Saturday, October, and the season of loud bangs. Very much already on our agenda, and the planning has been ongoing for that right the way through the summer. So there is, again, a load of multi-agency work going on between ourselves and partners. There's a final planning meeting for that tomorrow, involving Inspector Martin Corley, who's leading on that for the whole of the city for me. And that will be a very much a partnership approach to making sure that we can keep the residents of Newport sort of safe and feeling secure during what can be quite a busy time. Those are the main areas that I wanted to cover this evening to give you some updates, but more than happy to take questions on anything.
Thank you, Chief Inspector. First question I've got at the moment is from Councillor Fairweather.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Returning
Excuse me, Presiding Member.
Sorry, you're right. My mistake, sorry. The leader's right for the questions first. Sorry about that.
Thank you. Welcome back, Chief Inspector. It's good to see you here in Newport.
Thank you very much.
I've just got a few points, really. Colleagues from the West will notice that there appears to be a more established and regular pattern of engagement with elected members in Newport East than there is in Newport West. And I recognise that there have been some changes in staffing around this, so continuity can be an issue in relation to this. But could you please explore the potential for establishing regular updates and contacts and engagement with elected members that represent the west of the city in the same way there is for the east, because there isn't that continuity there, and that would be really helpful to us. My other point is on the introduction of 20-mile-an-hour zones. I know that we're all dealing with this, but there are concerns around enforcement in relation to this, because of course people will be causing road traffic offences or committing road traffic offences when if they breach this. But enforcement, of course, is a massive challenge to the police. And I wonder if perhaps at another stage, perhaps you'd be prepared to arrange for some sort of information session to be put on for elected members, so that we can better understand this and plans for enforcement around this, so that we can liaise with our residents on this matter. And finally, you mentioned Pill Carnival. It's been so wonderful to see so many events back across the city. We've had the Big Splash event again, we've had Pill Carnival, and you know the good weather has brought really, I think, a strong sense of positivity across the city. None more so, I have to say, than our recent inaugural Newport Pride event. And I just wanted to congratulate you and your teams on the really positive policing of all of these public events, these community events. They've really engaged so well with the public, and all of the events have passed without issue. So if you could feed that back to your teams, that would be great on behalf of us all. Thank you.
Absolutely, and thanks for your kind comments, Leader. I know there's been a lot of work gone in by the team, and a lot of consideration around community impact on the way that we police every event now. So very much a light touch from us on policing those events and utilising them as engagement opportunities for the community as well. With regard to your other question, totally accept that may feel like the case for some of the elected members from the West, and I can assure you that I will look at that. Just so that you are aware, I'm going to be looking to make sure that we try and provide some context to all of you around the problems that are going on around the city. with probably a monthly or a bi-monthly newsletter that comes to all elected members, so that they can understand all of the issues that are going on across Newport, which will give context to some of the issues that might be occurring within certain wards. That's only really so that there can be an understanding by everyone of exactly what's going on. So there'll be not any specific operational information, but very much some detail on the crime types, where we're seeing increases and decreases, and perhaps any assistance that might be requested from yourselves as well. So I will certainly tackle that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, David Fairweather.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Presiding Officer. Chief Inspector, I wonder if you could help me with something. When the consultation process was out for the 20-mile-an-hour speed limits, nobody from Gwent Police commented. Now, you understand that this has a massive implication for your resources. You are responsible for the policing of these 20-mile-an-hour limits, and I can't possibly see how you can do that without using a lot of staff. Now, I know from personal experience that many people are not sticking to it. There are instances now where people are driving at 20, others are overtaking them to get past. It needs to be sorted out. We've had this imposed on us. Newport wasn't a trial area. It's something that the council here decided to do. There was no need to do it. So can you find out why nobody commented on the consultation, and could you come back to us for that? Thank you.
I can certainly ask that question. Certainly around any enforcement that comes in the future, an awful lot of speed enforcement now is done by Go Safe Wales and the safety camera unit. But yeah, I can certainly ask that question. I can come back to council on it.
Thank you very much. Councillor Morris.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer. Chief Inspector, an issue that's cropped up regularly in our ward, and I'm sure right the way across the city, are electric bikes. Kids on electric bikes, and in many cases certainly going more than 20 mile an hour. Our issue is we're not against the bikes per se, but how is it possible that you can purchase something that can travel at considerable speeds, no knowledge of the road, no knowledge of the highway code, no safety equipment for the user, and no insurance should they have a collision? There have been several near misses, and I think we're not far off a fatality. I have personally seen what happens when smaller vehicles hit cars and lorries, and we've had no end of complaints. I know that you're working on it, and I know Jessica Morden has given her support. What is the position nationally, please?
So the position nationally around the electric bikes, or Surons as they appear to be being called, is very much around tactically how we deal with it. So there are a number of different options, which I would sooner not go into in an open forum. But tactically, I am fully aware that we are very close to having signed off tactics to deal with those bikes and actually be in a position to seize them. I think everyone here would understand that there are some inherent difficulties with dealing with young people, because most of them are younger people or younger adults on these bikes, where we can't be involved in tactically anything that's going to harm anybody. Albeit, I do fully understand that part of an operation that is being put together around that at the moment is around targeting retailers. So the people who are importing these bikes and the work that can be done nationally around the importation of these items, none of them being manufactured in the UK, they're all being manufactured abroad. So there is work nationally going on around that, and locally, tactically, to deal with the actual problem of the ones that are already here. It is something we are fully aware of, and we are dealing with, and shortly we should be in a position to start seeing some results on that.
Okay. Councillor Howells, did you indicate? Oh, sorry. Jan Cleverly, I've got next then. Councillor Cleverly?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer. Good evening, Chief Inspector. My question really is about the 20-mile-an-hour limit on cars. How are you going to monitor it? Because in Bettis, we have a vast number of electric bikes and scooters. walking along the brook a couple of weeks ago. My granddaughter was nearly knocked right over by this electric scooter. And he wasn't even a teenager. He was in his 20s. You know, after I shouted at him, he stopped about 20 yards away from me and told me he knows how to drive. Yes, I thought. He's lucky he wasn't closer. But that's the problem we've got in Bettis. And as you said, there is lack of police, because I write emails to the police. I don't even get a response in an email off them. So I look forward to your answer for that. Thank you.
I think probably, if it's okay with you, Presiding Officer, I'll refer back to my previous answer on the electric bike issue around that particular operation. And Ms. Cleverly, more than happy to make sure that you get that contact. And if I will happy to make contact with you myself to understand what some of the issues are that you're having up in Bettis now. I'll sort that out over the next 10 days, and we'll have that discussion.
Thank you, Chief Inspector. Much obliged.
Councillor Hurahan.
Thank you very much for your extremely efficient response to the St Julian's hoax gun incident this morning. It was very well resourced. It wasted an awful lot of your time. I hope it was a hoax, but nevertheless that you will continue to try and find who the perpetrator is and bring appropriate responses. But thank you again, and I'm sorry it wasted so much of your time and closed the school for the day.
Just in response to that, obviously that's an ongoing investigation, so I can't make too many comments on it. But yes, there have been a number of people questioned in relation to it, and I have no doubt we'll get to the facts of what happened over the coming days.
Okay, Councillor Deb Harvey. No.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Harvey. Very gratefully appreciated. I know Martin will be glad to hear that. I know he does a lot of work to make sure that he keeps you updated, and like I said, I will make sure that starts to happen across the rest of Newport.
Councillor Evans.
Yeah, thank you, Presiding Officer, and welcome back, should I say, Chief Inspector Davis. I appreciate you did mention it in your initial summary, but it does relate to antisocial behaviour and intimidating begging in the city centre. So essentially, and I know you've seen some of the emails from constituents about it, perhaps you could elaborate not just about what the police can do, but what actions your partners can do in this, and I'm talking about the council and other agencies. What would you like to see them do to assist you in your job in the city centre? Thank you.
So where we are at the moment is we're already engaged very heavily with local authority, with some third sector people as well around this particular issue. So we've adopted over recent years, and it is quite recent, and it's still relatively in its infancy, what we call a problem-orientated policing approach. I would actually, probably at the risk of having all of you there, like to extend an invite to you to come and understand what that means and what that looks like. So more than happy to actually present some of that to you around problem-orientated policing and what that looks like for us, because it very much involves understanding the problem rather than just going at it like a bull at a gate. And I think that's part of the biggest issue with some of these more complex problems that we have within the city, is making sure that we understand the problem before we deal with it. So that's kind of where we are again, and it may very well sound, unfortunately, Mr. Evans, like I'm giving you a load of excuses at the moment, but we are back, largely speaking, almost at the beginning, because an awful lot of what we've done hasn't necessarily had the approach or the success that we would have liked. I know that there is a huge amount of work going on by the local authority, which is what we're doing the work with, around engaging with certainly with the rough sleepers, around getting them accommodation. A lot of the individuals involved don't want to engage, and that's part of the issue. So there is a more complex problem involved in this than just throwing money at it and other different things. We're talking about some complex mental health issues and different things that we need to drag a lot of other agencies in. I'm more than content at the moment that we have the support of all our partners, and our partners have our support as well in trying to deal with it.
Okay, thank you very much. If I can just go back to Councillor Harvey now. Obviously, if the microphones are not working, people not remotely can't hear what you're saying. So if that's the case with anybody else, can they just move to a mic that is working? Okay? No, that's not true. I've got Councillor Corton now.
Mr Presiding Officer, hi Chief Inspector. As councillors, my colleagues and I in Ringham really do understand the resource and pressures that police forces like Gwent are under. And I just want to say, we really do appreciate the hard work that your officers put into our ward. You've mentioned Operation Bang, and with that in mind, I wondered if we could arrange a meeting to see if there's any way that we as ward councillors can help you over the next few months with the dark evenings, to see how we can support you and your teams. Thank you.
Yeah, more than happy to include you in some of those meetings, and certainly probably be worth getting Martin Corley, the inspector who's running that operation, to probably arrange a meeting, which we can probably do via the office here. That we're quite happy to invite you to, just so that you can understand some of the operational and partnership work that's going on around that Operation Bang. So maybe you can assist in some of the signposting around some of that work. So yeah, thank you very much appreciated.
Thank you very much. Councillor Whitehead.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Firstly, God bless the thin blue line, as always. Secondly, I suppose my question is, word on the street, is that Newport apparently is the second biggest city in the UK for the drug problems, drug dealing, etc., etc. Can you either confirm or deny, probably the wrong word, but can you confirm that is actually the case, Chief Inspector? Nice to meet you, by the way.
No, Mr. Whitehead, that's not a statistic I've heard. So I can't confirm or deny that, because I would be that would be too much of a risk, unfortunately. But I definitely haven't heard it myself.
Right, Councillor Druitt.
Can I have a supplementary on that, please, Presiding Officer?
No.
Can you?
No, there's no supplementaries. Sorry, Councillor Whitehead, there's no supplementaries. These are questions down to the Chief Inspector. I think if you want to raise something, possibly put it in writing or email to him, because obviously we've only got 5 minutes left and there's a lot of other people who want to speak.
Chief Inspector, I'm sure I don't need to draw your attention to the large crowds that gather on Ridgeway to celebrate bonfire night during that time. Can you give assurances that this area is going to be policed effectively? Thank you.
During that particular period, we look to prioritise our resources around where the biggest risk is. So the resources that are available are finite. So it depends on where that risk is. I'm not suggesting it won't be policed in the slightest. There is every possibility that there will be a police presence at some of these big areas. But that will be very, very heavily based on where that risk is. So I can certainly look to make sure that Ridgeway is featured into the plans that Mr. Corley's put together, and I will make sure that someone comes back to you on that.
Councillor Mogford.
Thank you. Chief Inspector, well, first of all, I'd like to say and congratulate you for sitting there and answering all these questions that are random and, for what might be a long period of time. My question picks up on a question by Councillor Fellweather, and it goes back to the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit. What resources do you have to actually focus in on speeding?
So to go back to my previous answer, that a lot of speed enforcement now is carried out by, we've got a dedicated roads policing unit. They tend to deal with what we call a fatal five, speeding being one of those. But also Go Safe Wales, which is the safety camera units that operate, I'm sure you will have seen them, within areas, but specifically they are targeted towards areas of where there is high numbers of collisions, especially those involving injury or fatality. So those resources are targeted to those particular areas where those issues are. So those are the resources, largely speaking, that will be responsible for the policing of any speed enforcement.
Councillor Balatroni. Hope I've got that right.
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me? And good attempt. We'll get there. Thank you, Chief Inspector. Quick question about cuckooing. In my previous ward in Monmouthshire, unfortunately, it happened quite a bit where criminal gangs target vulnerable adults, particularly in homes, and take over their homes and exploit them and their home for criminal activity. To what extent is that across Newport? Is it a particular problem vis-à-vis other cities in the region? And secondly, you talked a lot about cross-agency work. What's your relationship like with Newport City Homes, particularly into that issue, but more generally? Thank you.
So 2 questions in there. So first one around cuckooing, no more of a problem than it is anywhere else, but I'm not going to deny that it exists. We have a very robust approach to that. We've actually created a position for what we call a harm and vulnerability coordinator that actually monitors and looks for intelligence or anything that might be causing us some particular issues in any particular areas, specifically around areas where there are vulnerable people in certain wards, then there is specific attention paid to those areas. So moving that slightly on to our relationship with Newport City Homes, very good. Our relationship with most of the registered social landlords is excellent. Just to give you an example of that, where we have had issues in any given area with, shall we say, certain types of people being housed within a given area, they are more than willing to move to look at housing policies with us that make sure that we avoid increasing the saturation of certain types of people with certain issues within certain areas. So we've got those policies in place in certain places. So that's just one example of some of the partnership working that we've got with them. So, yeah, very much. They're involved in my hate crime partnership. They're involved in all manner of bits of partnership working through Safer Pill, through Safer Newport, the Safer City Centre. They're involved in all of those groups. So they play a very big part in antisocial behaviour management, all manner of things. And that's not just Newport City Homes, that's all of the RSLs. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. This is the last question now. It's Councillor Saheed.
Thank you, Presiding Member. Firstly, I'd like to thank the Chief Inspector and his team for the continued efforts in policing and engaging with the community in Pill, particularly obviously participating in the most recent traditional events of Pill Carnival, and also, of course, NYCA. But just if I go into my question, it relates to the 101 service. Is there a target time to answer non-emergency calls, Chief Inspector?
There are target times around 999 services and 101. 101 is obviously considerably longer, and you can expect to wait a lot longer on a 101 service. We're not happy with our performance in that area at the moment. We're coming out of a summer. Unfortunately, the police officer's friend, the rain, did not help us out this year, and demand throughout the summer has been sky high. That has created an issue where we haven't performed as well around 101 as we would have liked. We have done a lot of work around ensuring that people are able to report non-emergency crime without having to pick up a telephone. So we've got social media angles now. We've also got email. You can report by the single online home and on the website. So there are a number of other places that I would probably look to direct people to report non-emergency incidents to us. There are other options other than 101. So yeah, it's not a satisfactory position for us to be in. It's always nicer to speak to a person rather than feel like you're just typing some words into a website. But that's where we are at the moment, is trying to make sure that we provide any number of different avenues of reporting into the police.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Right, that's the end of questions to the Chief Inspector. Can I thank you, Chief Inspector? I hope it wasn't too painful for you.
Not at all. Anytime.
Right. I think everybody appreciates you answering the questions in the way you have. Thank you very much indeed. So we move on now to the next item. By agreement with all the political parties, the next item will be the last on the agenda. Therefore, a written response will be provided to any questions to the Leader and Cabinet members. The Leader will introduce this item and formally move the motion. Leader?
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer. This Council expresses its deep sadness at the death of Her Majesty the Queen and offers its sincere condolences to His Majesty the King and other members of the royal family. We recognise Her Majesty's enduring commitment to public service and duty, including her support for many Welsh charities and organisations and her lifelong association with Wales and its people.
Thank you very much. Is there a seconder to that motion?
Second, Presiding Officer.
Leader, do you want to say any more on the motion? Leader?
I'll reserve my right to speak at the end, if I may, please.
Yeah, right, thank you. Your right to reserve to, or do you want to speak now?
I'd like to speak now, if I
okay.
may. Thank you very much. The last few weeks have been an emotional roller coaster, from shock, grief and disbelief to feelings of proudness and hope about the way the nation and the city paid tribute to a much loved and respected lady. Even the staunchest of Republicans cannot deny her complete devotion to public service. Some of you have been fortunate to have been mayor of our city, while others will have that opportunity. A great honour and privilege, it has to be said, a very rewarding but demanding year. I can't even imagine doing this on a much larger scale for over 70 years, but she did it right up until the day before she died at the ripe age of 96. I have never met her, but was one of the few remaining councillors here to attend the dinner at the Newport Centre when she came to celebrate city status in 2002. The streets were packed with well-wishers, and this is a day I will never forget, like many others. On another occasion, I attended a church service in Ebbw Vale to celebrate her Diamond Jubilee. Sitting opposite her, she had an immense presence despite her small stature, and her smile lit up the room. We would have all heard about or seen some truly vile posts on social media from a mindless minority, and sadly Newport was no exception. But the overwhelming strength of feeling has been to unite the city, the country and the nation like we are doing here today. So as we come to terms with the Queen's passing, perhaps the greatest tribute we can all make is to emulate her great dedication and service to the people we represent, from Ringland to Ridgeway, and work as hard as we can to better our city. Much loved, stoic, duty-bound, and respected Queen of Ages, a symbol of stability and resilience. She was a monarch and a matriarch, and shall be truly missed. But she leaves behind a monumental legacy after 70 historical years in reign. May our beloved Queen rest in peace, and God save the King.
Thank you, Councillor. Are there any sorry? Yeah, I've got it. Councillor Lacey, do you want to speak to the motion?
Yes, please. Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer. I'd like to offer deepest condolences to the royal family from not only myself but from the residents of Ringland. It was only 3 months ago when many Newport residents gathered on Ringland Top Field, the Queen Elizabeth II field, to celebrate the Platinum Jubilee and the lighting of the beacon. The 5-acre Ringland Top Field was protected in trust in June 2013 as part of the Queen's Diamond Jubilee, thanks to the hard work of my colleague Emma and residents including Virginia Brown and David Williams. The field has become a focus of remembrance in the last few weeks for the community, and flowers have been laid there. Ringland residents are proud to have the Queen Elizabeth II field in the heart of their community, and I speak on their behalf when I say rest in peace and thank you for your service, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lacey. I've got Councillor Marshall.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Hopefully everyone can hear me. I, like many others, were deeply saddened by the passing of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. Most know that my background is Irish Republican with my family, and it's one that noticeably has been a thing of conflict over the years. Now, I mention that on the basis of the dedication that Queen Elizabeth had dedicated herself to seeing a reconsideration, especially in 2011. Between our islands, and specifically going to various Irish landmarks in the city of Dublin and across Cork and other places, which I know fellow Irish people within the city of Newport do look up highly as well. And the fact that she was the first monarch in 100 years to actually go to Ireland, for example. The fact that she had, that we as Irish people within the city and across the world can actually hold in that these islands are better off having, that kind of stature, being involved in that and leading that on as well there. The other things, I've been very lucky myself in various capacities to meet Her Majesty as well. Within that, one of them actually physically meeting her representing Wales. One of them in the basis of seeing my community being really, really proud of me when I was about 13, 14, going down to London, obviously seeing the Queen, having a cup of tea, that type of thing. But it's exactly that same community that actually hosted street parties, things like that there, which I'm sure others had as well. Marking a remarkable life, but showcasing, even up to the day with the most recent Jubilee, the citizens of Newport really did, appreciate her service to all. Within this world, and to what she'd done, and also the commemorations across the world has shown just that, as said, from Newport, the world, the Commonwealth, etc. She was a constant. I'm 33. I think I'm the baby of the council now. I'm not quite sure. But she was a constant in my life for double the age, and I'm sure she was a constant for many others within this chamber. She was also the sovereign head of the most vulnerable order of St. John, which I know a lot of you know that I'm a part of, and was recognised to become member of the Order of St. John as well. And it is pride to actually be part of that and to see some of the legacy that she left, because she really took it to heart to see St. John when it became time for the garden parties in Buckingham Palace. It was known for her to come and see fellow members, to actually go and see them, greet them, thank them for the service. Very down-to-earth person, making sure that they got seen, and got recognised for being there as well. So, yeah, very, very fondly missed women as well, definitely, and a role model as a woman for what was a very difficult time in the 50s, for being involved in politics, for being involved, within a head of state role. My thoughts as well, and thanks, must also go to those that actually supported in the last few weeks. My St. John colleagues, the police, the army, the armed forces, and I have to say our amazing civil servants that actually did, more than their fair share to make sure that everything was okay when London Bridge did finally, go down, sadly. And just thank you to all, and, a long-lived service, and the sad loss of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, and God save the King.
Thank you, Councillor Marshall. I've got Councillor Fairweather.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer. I would also like to offer my condolences to the royal family, but also of those of my colleagues now at His Majesty's prison service, one of the first changes that we've seen. Of course, during the Queen's reign, we had some Jubilee parties, and in Altarine there were many, and the families enjoyed their day. But we should never forget the work that the Queen did for this country in making it great, making Britain great, in the work she did for the Commonwealth, the work she did for her charities. And of course, as Mayor, I never had the privilege of meeting the Queen, but I did meet the now King. And I was absolutely amazed when I was stood there at the Celtic Manor for what was then the Prince's Trust when he came along, at how much he knew about myself and my wife, how well briefed they are. You know, they take the time to learn about us so that they can offer us good advice and we can show our respect. So, my condolences to the royal family. They are a fantastic family. This country is a better place for them, and God save the King.
Thank you, Councillor Fairweather. Councillor Druitt.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I wish to pay my condolences to the royal family at this sad time, and to pay my respects to Queen Elizabeth, who served this country so faithfully. She was a much-loved, serene, steadfast, diligent, dutiful and respected monarch, who was a beacon of hope for many. May she rest in peace.
Thank you, Councillor Druitt. Councillor Cox.
The death of the Queen, I think, that made a lot of us stop and reflect back on her reign and on the whole. It was the end of a whole era, and it certainly got me doing that. And I must confess, in doing that, I admit that I turned to my great political hero, Clement Attlee, because I don't know if people are aware, but Attlee wrote an excellent essay on the role of the constitutional monarchy in Britain in 1959, and it's well worth members reading that. And he was the most radical Prime Minister of the 20th century. He fought in the trenches, he was Deputy Prime Minister in World War I, he was a Prime Minister of probably the country's greatest reforming government after the war, and he never ever wavered through his whole career in his support for constitutional monarchy in this country. He believed that only the monarch could rise above the political fray and gain spread the wide affection of the people of the country as a head of state and their loyalty, that the monarch was a powerful symbol of unity, bringing diverse communities together. He was also very impressed with the sort of sense of duty that went with the role. And I think if he'd have been alive and looked back on the reign of Queen Elizabeth, I think he would have had no doubt at all that the royal family, that the Queen Elizabeth lived up to those expectations absolutely fully right till the end of her life. And clearly there's been an outpouring of affection and loss that came from right across society, people coming from all over the United Kingdom to queue all night to see her lying in state. And I think without a doubt that the scenes we saw demonstrated the affection and respect in which the late Queen was held. And perhaps I'd like to just pick out one example of how she was able to put that to really powerful use, and probably the greatest example of it in my lifetime, I think, and that was her role in bringing about peace in Ireland and ending generations there of murder and bombing and violence. And I think everybody involved, I mean, people like Martin McGuinness, Sinn Féin, even the Irish Prime Minister, all agreed that her role was absolutely central in bringing about peace. The fact she went to Ireland, she spoke in Irish, she bowed her head in front of a memorial to men who'd actually been involved in fighting the British state. The symbolism was enormous, and I don't think anybody else could have done it in that way apart from the Queen. And I'd just like to make a couple of other points to finish. That I think her reign also has got some enormous lessons for us as representatives of the public, as elected members, that politics in this country, it seems to me, are more polarised than they've ever been, probably since the 1930s, since they've ever been in my lifetime. And there are plenty of people who are willing to whip that division up and fan the flames to exploit it for their own advantage. And the Queen's instinct was always to draw people together, always to bring communities together. And I think that that's an example that we all very much need to follow. And if I can just finish off, I was going to finish off, ironically, with a quote from Paul Keating, the Australian Prime Minister, who I understand he tends to be rather Republican in his sympathies. And this is what he said about the Queen. He said, in the 20th century, the self became privatised, whilst the public realm, the realm of the public good, was broadly neglected. Queen Elizabeth II understood this and instinctively attached herself to the public good against what she recognised as a tidal wave of private interest and private reward. And I feel very, very passionately that that's a lesson that we should all, and a message that we should all follow.
Thank you very much, Councillor Cox. Councillor Spencer.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I feel I need to stand and pay my condolences. Being an ex-serviceman, serving under the Queen and serving the country, I had the honour of changing the guard of Buckingham Palace for two weeks. I also had the honour of lining the streets for Lord Mountbatten when they done the funeral for him. So I just feel I need to get up and also pass on my condolences to the now King and the rest of the family. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Spencer. Councillor Howells.
Thank you. On behalf of the councillors and all the resident well-wishers of the Tredegar Park and Marshfield ward, I'd like to extend my condolences to the friends and family of Her Majesty the Queen and express admiration for her dedication and her lifetime of service to the role. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Deb Davis.
Thank you so much, Mr. Presiding Officer. I'm pleased to support this motion. Our Queen gave our life to, to service to our country and the Commonwealth and its residents. Her focus on her role was exemplary, and for all of us as councillors, she was an outstanding role model on how to conduct ourselves in public life. As a woman, she's also been a role model in a male-dominated world, as she quietly, with authority, knew how to get her voice heard. The Queen earned the respect of everyone in her approach to her role, and this came with a readiness and enthusiasm. She was always knowledgeable and was always on top of her brief. This is an end of an era. Queen Elizabeth, with her length of service to our country, brought with it a sense of stability, security and constancy, which we only have realised now with her loss how much this has really mattered. We are going to truly miss our monarch, the Queen. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. I got Councillor Harvey.
I've worked out how to use it now, Mr. Presiding Officer. The Queen was what everyone has said. She was a fantastic monarch, and I do have the greatest sympathy with her family. But more than 70 years in public life, she was a 97-year-old lady. She was a mother, a grandmother, a great-grandmother, and the pain they're going through now, most of us have been through in our own lives, losing our own parents. So from the bottom of my heart, I give my deepest sympathy to the family. But also, it's nice to remember the Queen for her 70 years, for what she's done for this country. It's immeasurable. And my claim to fame is I have 3 letters written from the Queen to me. Would you have believed that? No, you wouldn't have. And not one of them said you're going to jail. Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer.
Thank you, Councillor Harvey. Councillor Morris.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer. I've had the honour of meeting the Queen during my mayoralty, and it was quite interesting, the conversation. I was stood in a line at the opening of the Welsh Assembly, and the Queen came along with all the royal family, and I bowed my head reverently and I said, "Newport, ma'am," and the entire conversation from the Queen was, "Oh, Newport, I've been there," and then she walked on past. But I can say I've had the honour of meeting her. I have deep sympathy for the royal family in losing the Queen, and she set an example that no one else in my lifetime will. But I also represent an area of unbelievable deprivation. I was at a school governors meeting last night where the kids were being asked to bring in food to help the kids in the class. If it is at all possible that this council can celebrate the Queen's life, myself and my colleagues, the kids in the middle of Lidbury have nothing. We have kids dealing drugs on street corners because they have nothing else to do. They have nowhere to go. They are moved from pillar to post.
Councillor Morris, we're talking about condolences now, and you're talking about...
That's the point I'm coming to, Mr. Presiding Officer. I don't mean to be insulting to the Queen, far from it. But if we can build some sort of memorial, somewhere that our kids can go in the name of the Queen, it would be very, very well appreciated, and her name would be very, very much respected, as it already is in Lisbury. If we can do that, we would be very, very grateful that her name would live on forever with the hearts and minds of the people of Lisbury.
Okay. I don't think there's anybody else wants to speak. Can I call upon the leader now to wind up the motion?
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer, and can I say thank you to all colleagues who've spoken to the motion this evening. It's been really good to hear your reflections and also hear the tribute you've paid on behalf of your constituents in relation to the sad death of Her Majesty. I wanted to express my thanks, but I did want to express my thanks on behalf of us all, as elected member, to our teams who made the necessary procedural operations run smoothly and effortlessly during this period. And I know Councillor Marshall has touched on this in his address, but actually it is really important that in order to enable us to pay our respects in an appropriate way, there is a great deal of organisation that sits behind that. And I really wanted to take this opportunity to thank our Newport City Council teams for the work that they'd done in relation to this, because it's all happened very, very quickly indeed. And I'd like to pay particular tribute in relation to that to our Mayor, Councillor Martin Calloway, and to my Cabinet colleague, Councillor Jason Hughes, for their reading of the proclamation in our own council chamber. So thank you very much to colleagues for that. Listening to the reflections, Mr. Presiding Officer, made me reflect actually on some of the really positive activities that have taken place across the city earlier this year in celebration of the Platinum Jubilee. And many of us will have been involved in those activities. I'd just like to highlight one of those, which is the Plant a Tree for the Jubilee campaign. And so many of our schools will have these trees planted there now, and so many of our public spaces. And these really are a lasting legacy, a true and fitting memorial to the reign of Her Majesty the Queen. And may they live on and provide a permanent memorial to us all going forward in the future. Now, Mr. Presiding Officer, we all know, as human beings, the agony of grief and loss. And today our thoughts are very much with the royal family at this sad time. But thoughts also with those citizens and families here in Newport who are also dealing with grief and loss at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. I think we all agree with the sentiments and concur with all your comments that you've made this evening. Thank you very much indeed. Would all councillors now please cast their vote by clicking on the appropriate box in the chat function? I will give all members a short time to cast their vote before confirming the result. And those in the chamber, please vote, please. I think that's 100%. Therefore, I declare the motion is duly carried. That concludes the meeting of the Council. The next meeting will take place on the 22nd of November 2022. Thank you very much indeed. Have a safe journey home. Good night.
Nos da chi di.
Nos da.